quarterbacks don't need to be ripped and like it's not cardio out. Like you need some cushioning to absorb these ridiculous hits from like Myles Garrett.
The most jacked quarterback in the league is Will Levis, for context.
Yeah.
So
have you seen Josh Allen with his shirt off? Yeah. Josh Allen's not Cristiano Ronaldo. He's getting some. It's okay.
By the way, I applaud your encyclopedic knowledge of what quarterbacks look like without their shirts on.
I can go deep. I go 20 deep.
We'll power rank the most dad bods of quarterbacks. Another guy here on the list, guys,
Daddy, what are you looking at? Shirtless photos of quarterbacks. Why do you ask, Rilo?
Looking for the cushion against the sacks.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Jay Croucher, dad bod connoisseur Matthew Berry, Lawrence Jackson. Connor Rogers not with us for some reason, oddly coinciding with the Mets season falling apart. So they almost get no hit by Gavin Williams.
He's also the one guy of the four of us that doesn't have a dad bod. The three of us are all dads. We all have bods. Ergo, dad bods. I apologize to you, by the way, in the end of the clip. I meant to say Rio, and I don't know why it came out Rilo or whatever. I
wasn't listening to you.
No,
as I often don't.
Which is fair. You know, it's a good point here as we're live on YouTube. Danger Zone says, if Barry could win it all last year with a dad bod, then why couldn't Mahomes? A very fair question, Jay Croucher.
Yeah.
Because I did win it all for the second straight year.
Yeah. Well, I guess you had me and Lawrence coming after you instead of Jalen Carter and Josh Sweat. It's probably the difference.
There is that.
It's got me rethinking my workout regimen ahead of our next show league draft. I might have to.
Unbelievable, Matthew, just kind of linking in your body with his body.
This is the thing.
We saw a picture of me at the beach club in Vegas.
Also, don't link mine in with yours either. I'm not Lawrence, but I'm better than yours.
So now we got to rank the Fantasy Football Happy Hour dad bods. But this is the thing, though. What you said is correct, and we do all have that. If you're a dad, you got a dad bod.
Yes.
It's just like fantasy football. There's different tiers.
I will just say, I will put my adjusted for age. Adjusted for age. We got to grade a bell curve here. Let's be honest. But adjusted for age, I would put my body up against the two of you. Honestly, no, seriously, because I am significantly older than both of you guys.
You're not significantly older than me.
Yeah.
So I just play the role of a 28-year-old fantasy football analyst. I am not that.
Yeah.
We could be brothers.
That's fair enough. We do have a lot in common. We look similar. I get that.
Yeah,
fair enough, obviously. I often get asked, are you Lawrence Jackson? I'm like, no, that's.
Look, we both have kids in college.
We do. This is true.
Okay.
Actually correct.
A lot in common, a lot to get to today. We're going to check in on the Rotoworld Player news, take a look at some updated depth charts around the NFL. But we're going to start off by looking at some burning questions. We looked at quarterbacks and tight ends yesterday. We're going to take a look at running backs and wide receivers today. I'm going to start off with running backs. We're going to take a look at your top 10 rankings, Matthew, which are perhaps a little controversial, and we'll get into it. But Bijan Robinson, new pronunciation of name, new ranking as RB1 for Matthew. Jahmyr Gibbs, number 2. CMC, hopefully healthy, 3. Saquon Barkley, 4, which is a little controversial. Ashton Genty, 5. Devin Achane, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and Josh Jacobs. But I think the most interesting one here, Matthew, is Saquon Barkley at number 4 after his historic season in 2024. We heard from Saquon Barkley talking about being more involved with the passing game.
I don't know. I don't really know. You guys, you're right. You're the one. You guys do the numbers and stuff. I don't really do the numbers. I just come out and practice, and just try to execute the plays. But it's something that I'm really comfortable with. Something I've did in my career, especially early on in my career. And I got to be able to adapt. Like I said, the first press conference we had after last year, it got to look different. What different looks like, I don't know. But, I got to be effective in many ways. And that's in pass pro, that's catching the ball, that's running the ball, that's leading. Only thing that matters is win a football game. So whatever I can to do to help, that's my mindset.
Okay, Matthew. So last year's Saquon 2K rushing wins the Super Bowl. Historic season. One of the greatest seasons of all time. But the one thing, outside of getting sniped by Jalen Hurts at the 1 repeatedly, the one thing with his game that wasn't there was the passing game. And how much does that play into you only having him as RB4?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a concern, right? Or this question is like, how concerned are you what's the argument for not having Saquon Barkley at number one? And I think you just saw it there. The argument was the same as sort of last year. I mean, like I was, I didn't have it number one last year. Some of the concerns were going into Philadelphia, where you just mentioned it. Like they don't really throw to the quarterback. Jalen Hurts doesn't really throw to the quarterback. I don't think this offense does. They also, I'm also nervous about Jalen Hurts vulturing touchdowns at the goal line. What's crazy, Jay, is I was dead right about both of those things. Obviously, Hurts vultured him quite a bit. Saquon Barkley only 43 targets last year. That was tied for 26th among running backs. So I was dead right about both those things, and yet wrong overall because Saquon was awesome because he kept breaking off these 60-yard runs. The question is, how sustainable is that? This is a guy who had 482 touches last season, including the playoffs. He had only 40% of the team's goal line rushes, 38th among running backs as well. Again, those are stats that tell you what you know. He touched the ball a ton. He's not involved in the passing game. He gets vultured at the goal line. Is he amazing? Yes. Is it a good offensive line? Of course it is. But I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get into A.J. Brown, but they were so significantly run-heavy last year, even if they just become kind of run-heavy. Like, I'm not even saying they need to be normal, but just if they're like a normal run-heavy team as opposed to a crazy run-heavy team, I just think there are concerns given the amount of usage and the other question marks that there are three guys that I like better than Saquon Barkley there. Give me Bijan in what I think will be a better Falcons offense. Jahmyr Gibbs, no running back had more fantasy points per touch last year. And then, of course, Christian McCaffrey, who the only question with him is health. We know if he's healthy, he's producing fantasy points.
Yeah, the only difference here, I got Saquon at 3, you got him at 4. This is the thing. So all of that is correct. All those Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, could we all see those guys catching 70 passes? Yes, that's probably not likely for a guy like Saquon Barkley. For me, I'm not too much concerned about the touches he had last year, more so than these guys that you just mentioned, because of the fact that they can go out there and get 70 catches in their respective offenses. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, even when he was hurt last year and they was kind of iffy about what they wanted to do with him, when he played 16 touches per game for 87 yards from scrimmage, that was a small sample size, but again, he was hurt. So you see, Christian McCaffrey's going to go out there and catch 80-plus passes this year. When you look at what's going on with the 49ers receivers, and then they got Kittle there, Christian McCaffrey is going to be leaned heavily on. And then with Bijan Robinson, we talk a lot about Drake London and what he did with Michael Penix. But in those 3 games where Michael Penix started, Bijan Robinson, he averaged 26.8 fantasy points per game. So if he's anything, and we're talking about a guy who averaged 20 fantasy points per game, that went significantly higher when Michael Penix got in. So the concern is mainly the guys who's up there with him.
I think that's a great point, Lawrence, just in terms of, we always talk about this, targets are more valuable than carries when it comes to running backs, right? A lot of people have discussed this as, well-known sort of on fantasy Twitter, for lack of a better phrase. And to your point, Gibbs, Robinson, and CMC are all going to be heavily featured in their team's passing attacks, whereas Saquon just isn't, Jay.
Yeah, and I think that compared to Bijan in particular, there's regression coming both ways with one specific aspect, in that Saquon is just not going to break off the same amount of 60, 70-yard touchdown runs, and Bijan Robinson is going to, for the first time in his career this year, break off a 40-yard run, which he's never done in the NFL. Like, that just cannot endure. He's too good. He said that he has put a specific emphasis this offseason on being able to break those explosives, because I do think there is a luck aspect to that. I think there's also a skill aspect to it, though, where he hasn't been able to beat the last man, and that seems like he's something that he has really worked on. Lawrence, a guy who has been able to beat the last man and break 70-yard runs in the past is Jonathan Taylor, who I think is a little bit of an enigma, because weird situation for the Colts all around. He ended the season on an absolute tear last year, but he has this odd quarterback situation with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. How do you think that how that turns out impacts Jonathan Taylor?
I think it's for Jonathan Taylor. I think whatever the quarterback situation was last year was worse than what it's going to be this year, because at least this year you don't know who's going to be the starter yet, but you know what's going on. Like Anthony Richardson, whatever he was last year, you got to expect him to be somewhat better than that this year. And last year with Anthony Richardson, the first 4 games of the season, Jonathan Taylor was running back 7 in fantasy points per game. He comes back. Anthony Richardson gets back in weeks 11 weeks 11 through 16. He's only running back 15. But here's the kicker. He only had 1 touchdown in that stretch. Why? Because Anthony Richardson had 5. So the same thing we talk about with Saquon Barkley, we could be talking about it with either of the Colts quarterbacks, because they're quarterbacks who also run the ball. So that could be the concern. But then again, Jonathan Taylor is the last 200 rushing yard game we saw. So we know he's got it still.
We love Jonathan Taylor, friend of the podcast here as well. But just to give some stats that underscore what you're talking about, last year, 38% of the team goal line rush attempts last season went to Anthony Richardson. That was 4th highest rate among quarterbacks. And then Daniel Jones last season, obviously playing for a different team, he got 44% of his team's goal line rush attempts. That was the 2nd highest rate among quarterbacks. Again, so those are stats that just tell you what you know instinctively. And what Lawrence was just talking about here is that when they get in close, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones under center for the Colts, they're an option at the goal line. So there is a chance that Jonathan Taylor gets vultured. We don't think that Taylor is going to be heavily involved in this passing game. 6% target share in the games last year with Anthony Richardson. Maybe Daniel Jones dumps off a little bit more to him, but pass catching has never been a big part of Jonathan Taylor's game. Now, is he somebody that can run the ball tremendously? Yes, he can. But I think they will want to go run heavy, but especially if Daniel Jones is the quarterback, and I think he will be at least for part of the season, if not for a decent chunk of it, Daniel Jones can at least complete passes. And so you think about Pittman, and we were hearing, and Josh Downs, and we're hearing good reports about A.D. Mitchell out of camp, and we talked about Tyler Warren yesterday as well. So there's more weapons there. Warren also, by the way, another threat to vulture goal line touches from Jonathan Taylor. So we love the talent, but there's a reason why I have him down at RB8 and not as a top 5 play, because of some of these concerns.
Yep. Another guy we love the talent on, Matthew, is Breece Hall. 2 years ago, Breece Hall broke off like a 70-yard touchdown run against the Denver Broncos. I remember watching that run and thinking that this guy is going to be the best running back in football for the next few years. And then he tears his ACL that same day. He's never really looked like quite the same player, though he has been in pretty rough context at the same time. And so now we come into this kind of make or break year for Breece, Matthew, where do you think that he will see enough volume to potentially finish as an RB1?
No, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't. I mean, we're hearing too much buzz about Braylon Allen. Again, you think about Aaron Glenn coming over from Detroit. Now, obviously, he's a defensive he's from the defensive side of the ball, but certainly he saw the success of having a multi-pronged rush attack. Look, the Jets, and we'll get more into this when Connor is over his Mets, his Mets misery and shows back up here. But the fact is that the Jets' offense this year, whether it's Breece Hall, whether it's Braylon Allen, whether it's Justin Fields, it is going to be a run-heavy attack that they're going to try to use a bunch of different bodies to throw at you. It can't just be all Breece Hall. So, I have some concern here, right? Like, he's never had a 1,000-yard season. He's never had more than 5 rushing touchdowns. He's now got a head coach that came from a system that successfully used 2 running backs as well. And so you can't tell me that there's not a concern about Breece Hall in terms of usage here, Lawrence.
Definitely a concern. And where he's going to have to get it at is in the receiving game, which Aaron Glenn has said that's where they'll use him. Now, in 2023, he had 76 catches. That dropped down to 57 last year. If it's that number, I would say no. I actually have him at running back 14, which is not an RB1. But here's the thing, too. Last season, he was getting 5.7 targets and 4 receptions per game. When Devontae Adams came, both of those numbers dropped. And Devontae Adams was getting 10 targets a game with his boy Aaron Rodgers. So only if he could get to that 70 catch mark, I could see it. But otherwise than that, it's looking like it's going to be closer to a committee.
I'm at running back 14 as well, Lawrence. You and I right there together. But he did have a 12% target share as well. Corey Boudreaux.
Boudreaux?
Boudreaux? Very Canadian. Canada Corey. That's what I decided to call him. No idea where he's from. But Canadian Corey pops in with a YouTube comment. Fields going to be an issue for Breece Hall as well. For sure. Again, just all the issues that we just talked about with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, mobile quarterbacks at the goal line, that's going to be an issue for Breece Hall because obviously Fields is such a weapon with his legs. So we like Hall, but I think he's more of an RB2 than the RB1. Could he get there? Of course. We've seen it before. We've seen the talent. But I do think just the drumbeat of Braylon Allen and the fact that Fields is going to be used in the running game as well. It's just, I don't think Hall gets the volume that we've seen previously. He will be involved in the passing game, though. That's going to be the key.
Yeah, the difference here when you try to compare them to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, that's cool. You could do that with the running backs themselves. But when you look at the quarterbacks they have, Jared Goff, he ain't never running nothing. Justin Fields, he running that football, and we all know that. So that's going to be the big difference in whether or not Breece Hall or how many, you said it, never more than 5 rushing touchdowns. That's going to be a big factor.
Yep. Lawrence, Seattle Seahawks, first a weird offense to think about in general between the new quarterback, new coordinator, Cooper Kupp's on the team. But I think from a fantasy perspective, the most important aspect is what's going to happen with the backfield. Do you think it's more likely that we see the breakout, healthy season from Kenneth Walker that we've kind of been waiting for since he had that great rookie year? Or do you think that it's more likely that we see a larger role for Zach Charbonnet, who, they spent real draft capital on and has shown real flashes when he's been given a chance?
From a football standpoint, it seems like it depends on what they want to do. The past few years, they want to make Kenneth Walker their top running back. He was a second-round pick, obviously out of Michigan State. But the thing is, his thing is staying healthy. So can he do that? And when he does, can he keep Zach Charbonnet, who performs, as you just saw the stats on the screen, pretty similar to Kenneth Walker whenever he gets his opportunities to replace him. So it's really going to be all about, can he stay healthy? To this point, he hasn't proven that he can.
Yeah, he's missed multiple games in all 3 career seasons. It's weird, right? So, yes, new offense coordinator in Clint Kubiak, but, Mike McDonald is still there as their head coach, and ultimately that's the guy that has the say over personnel. We've all seen the production. When Zach Charbonnet's out there, he's been great, and yet when Kenneth Walker was healthy last year under the same head coach, Kenneth Walker was the guy that got all the work as well. General Kenobi, by the way, I believe that is his official rank.
Yeah.
General Kenobi.
He's also Canadian as well.
Yes, exactly. Well, to become a general in the Canadian Army. Congratulations, General Kenobi, on your storied career. He says, "I'd rather have Charbonnet than Ken Walker." I don't know if I agree with that.
Maybe at price.
I think here
at price,
yeah, maybe at price, I guess, because we do think Walker probably missed some time, and Charbonnet has proved he can be a true RB1 when he gets there. But I think this is more likely Ken Walker's backfield, because the other thing about Ken Walker is that he's this home run threat. And so when you have somebody like that can break off those long runs, which we've seen before from Ken Walker, you need to keep giving him chances to do that. He is not a guy that I think will thrive in a true committee, right? I think you need to commit to him in a big way. No one had a higher avoided tackle rate last year than Ken Walker. He was at 40%. So again, if you can get him to open space, if you can, but guys bounce off him. He has that big playability, and so he was a top 12 running back in points per game last season. And the other thing is that if you're Mike McDonald, if you're Clint Kubiak's offense generally is a lot of play action. So you're going to want to run the ball to establish this. And also, by the way, that offensive line is not going to be good. And Sam Darnold has been great under pressure. So I think if I'm Seattle, if I'm Mike McDonald looking at my team as a whole, I think their best chance at winning is running the hell out of the ball, playing great defense, and when they get a chance and they suck in the defense, taking a shot to JSN, maybe using Cooper Kupp to move the chains a little bit. But I don't expect this to be a high-volume passing offense. I do think it's going to lean on the running game, and when they lean on the running game, I think it's going to be Ken Walker more often than not.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing is, you say he don't thrive in the committee. He can't thrive being a guy either, because when we try to get him to do that, he get hurt all the time. So that's really what it is. That's what
But it doesn't feel like it. Again, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it doesn't feel like it's the same injury. It just feels like it's been.
No, it's not.
Been right. It's been right. It's been a hammy. It's been
right. Notice I'm not saying he's injury prone.
Right.
I'm not gonna go there with it. But these guys, the stat production wise, very similar for these guys.
Lawrence, Austin Wiley's got a question.
Yep. Thoughts on drafting both to lock up the backfield, Lawrence?
By the way, Austin Wiley, that sounds like an American name. Or Australian. That could be an Australian name.
Could
Wiley?
be. Yeah, I know some Wileys.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
In Melbourne.
Yeah, the thing with that is I do believe they're gonna, as long as Kenneth Walker's in there, he's getting that 15 to 20 carries, definitely touches per game. It's just, they just don't seem to mess with Charbonnet that much when Kenneth Walker is healthy. So I don't know if this is the type of backfield where you want to draft both guys. If we're talking about the Detroit Lions, that's another story.
Well, hang on, though. I think it depends on roster construction here. I don't think you want to draft both guys with the idea of because you can draft Gibbs and Montgomery and
if
be
you're
like,
talking about injury, then
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying it just sort of depends on your philosophy, sort of the size of your league, how deep you think your waiver pool is going to be, because there is one argument to be like, yes, draft an insurance back so that you have that backfield locked up, and there's other people that are like, no, you want to swing for the fences, especially if you're in a larger field tournament. You may want to draft backups for other players, right, and then hope that they get an opportunity here. To me, Charbonnet is going late enough, and he's been productive enough when Walker's has been out, that I do like the idea of sort of locking up this backfield. But yes, he's only after the 10th round. I only want to draft him if
let it fall to you.
Let it fall to you, and only again, you're only using him as a backup. In the games in which Walker was healthy last year, he averaged 6 touches a game. Again, maybe Clint Kubiak changes that, but it just, in terms of what we're hearing out of camp, it doesn't seem like roles are going to change anytime soon.
Yep. Another complicated backfield is in Minnesota, and we heard from a friend of the show, Kevin O'Connell, back on April 1st, talking about the potential split between Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason.
The big thing we learned about Aaron Jones last year is he can be an every down back. He can be, he was a featured part of our offense, but what we wanted to make sure that we were doing is we were using him in a way that allowed him to be his most impactful self when he has historically had that 1A, 1B backfield structure. He can be a total game changer every time he touches the ball. So it was always about bringing Aaron back. Huge leadership role on our team, really assumed that from day one. But what are we going to pair him with? I do think Jordan's going to bring something to the table, in those short yardage situations, those goal line situations, goal to go, where we've really left a lot to be desired as a football team.
The great Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
literally tell.
Well, look at that, and look at the dramatic pullback from the Vikings helmet on our wall. It's very artistic.
Wow,
we're getting arty
shades
on
of Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking through
we got
the restaurant.
Scorsese back there. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm digging that. That's
like
nice.
it.
We're not just your average fantasy football show. We've got tracking shots and ISOs, and maybe we'll do some special effects tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe. Well, how much do you love an Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason? And my main question here is, how run-heavy do you think that the Vikings will be with, effectively a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy?
I think they're probably a little bit. I think it's a pretty good offensive line. I think they will be reasonably run-heavy, try to take some pressure off of McCarthy. They also use their running backs in the passing game quite a bit. Aaron Jones last year, 12% target share. He was top 8 among running backs in both receptions and receiving yards among running backs. Listen, free Aaron Jones. You guys know this. I've loved Aaron Jones forever and ever. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. He was really productive last year. But I think you heard it from Kevin O'Connell right there, for reading between the lines. They think he can be a feature back, but they also, look, he's on the wrong side of 30. He is somebody that does get banged up. And so I think what they want to do here is try to ease the burden on him. I think people were surprised when they actively traded for Jordan Mason. And we've seen them, they've sort of gone through these, hey, let's kick the tires on Cam Akers again. And they've sort of tried to find complementary running backs, in the Ty Chandlers of the world, and they haven't really landed anyone. I think Jordan Mason is a really, really great value this year. I'm at running back 34. I've been basically as a top 100 player overall. It's a guy who averaged over 5 yards a carry in 2024. Again, that was with the Niners, but he's not really involved in the passing game that much. But I do think when you're hearing the camp reports, it really feels like it's going to be 1A, 1B. That they're going to split the workload in the backfield. Jones is going to be the passing down back, but Mason's going to be more of the goal line back. So you figure maybe they each get 10 carries a game. Jones gets 4 targets a game, but then 2 out of 3 goal line carries goes to Jordan Mason. And so I do think Jordan Mason, especially because he's younger, more explosive, less injury prone, potentially, I think he might be the better value in drafts this year.
Yep. Question for you, Lawrence, from Liberty Hog 42, probably an American resident.
Yeah.
Even if Aaron Jones stays healthy, do you guys think Mason will outscore him in touchdowns this year, Lawrence?
Touchdowns, wow, that is a big one. That could definitely go even. I could see it. Yeah, because not for
I say yes.
I would
take that bet.
I'm going to go with yeah too. But the thing about Jordan Mason, for what he does well, he is a really good back. This is a guy who would have ran for 1,300, 1,400 yards last season had he got the opportunity to start every game. And Matthew, you mentioned the 5 yards per carry. He averages 5.3 yards per carry for his career. So every year he's averaged 6 yards a carry, 5.2, 5.3. So he's consistently over 5 yards a carry. So when you talk about Aaron Jones, who got 15 carries last season, we do want to get that down to 10 to 12 for Aaron Jones, get some more carries in there for Jordan Mason. So if we expect them to be by the goal line and if they're going to get there by the run game, Jordan Mason can score more touchdowns.
Aaron Jones had 20 goal-to-go rush attempts last year. 20 goal-to-go rush attempts. He converted 5 of them.
Yeah, so that's going to be Jordan Mason right there.
Just saying.
Folks.
I think the smoking gun there, too, is that Jordan Mason could have gotten a bigger role somewhere else. The Vikings must have promised it, or at least given him some confident assurance. Yeah, they must have given him some confident assurances that he was going to have a real role there, and logic would dictate that he should. Let's jump to burning questions for wide receivers and take a look at your top 10. Matthew, Ja'Marr Chase coming off a triple crown. Justin Jefferson.
Proud fantasy life investor, Ja'Marr Chase.
Yes, indeed. Very much so. Justin Jefferson, number 2. CD Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, the ride or die runner-up, then Brian Thomas Jr., Detective Drake London, and A.J. Brown. And we heard from Amon-Ra St. Brown on how his teammate Jameson Williams looks this preseason.
JMO just keeps getting better. I feel like I get the JMO question every year. You guys don't let it go. So this is my 4th year now answering, how's JMO doing? And it's going to be the same answer every year. He's doing great. He's gotten better every year in this league. And, I mean, you guys know who JMO is now. So, yeah, JMO is JMO. He's fast. You guys know that. He's going to make plays. And we're happy to have him on our team. He's a beast.
Okay, Matthew. Now that you're our Detroit Lions insider, given you a close relationship with Jared Goff, how do you think a larger role for Jameson Williams would affect the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I don't think it affects it in any way that would matter to us. And by that I mean you're still drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown as one of the top 6 or 7 wide receivers off the board this year. I'm at wide receiver 6. I'm as a top 12 player overall. I can't imagine a first round that he doesn't get drafted in towards the end of the first round. I mean, maybe top of the second, but like for our purposes, I don't think it affects that much because Jameson Williams is not a volume guy. He's never going to be a volume guy. Does he get a few more targets? Okay, but like he's somebody that he's a home run threat. They're going to make big plays. Maybe they try to manufacture a few more touches, but like they have such different roles in the offense. And there's such a connection between Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like there's no scenario in which if Amon-Ra St. Brown is healthy, that he is not the focal point of this passing game. Yes, Laporte will be involved. Yes, Jameson Williams may get a few more targets per game, but it's still going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of only 2 wide receivers in the NFL with at least 100 receptions each of the past 3 seasons. It's literally him and CD Lamb, my guy Eights. I call him Eights. But literally Eights and Amon-Ra St. Brown are the only 2 guys with 100 receptions each of the last 3 years. I don't see that changing in year 4.
Well, there's enough volume for everybody. Jared Goff, the last 3 seasons, averages 577 passing attempts per season. And out of those 3 years, last year was the lowest, only 539 passing attempts. But here's the thing. He threw for his highest yards, over 4,600 yards. And with all that being said, Jameson Williams, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is correct. He gets better every year, Jameson Williams does. The numbers show that. And even in Jameson Williams' best season last year, goes over 1,000 yards. What does Amon-Ra St. Brown do? He has a career high in receiving touchdowns with 12. So
I think that's what's shocking. When you think about Amon-Ra St. Brown's size and he's a slot guy, he was second in the NFL in red zone targets last year. He had 31 red zone targets. Like, Jared Goff trusts him when they get in close. Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
Yep. Lawrence, a year and a half ago, the 2 best wide receivers in football, statistically at least, were Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown, who was on his way to being, he was looking like a top 3 candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. Production fell off a little bit last year as the Eagles leaned into the run, almost like no team ever before. Do you think his ADP has fallen too far this time around?
Yeah, and I want to be there for that. I want to be the guy who catches his ADP when it falls. A.J. Brown, over 1,000 receiving yards, 67 catches. The thing here is he only played 13 games. That's the biggest thing here. So when you can go for over 1,000 yards in 13 games and your quarterback is 22nd in the NFL in passing attempts, mind you, you got another receiver over there who's wide receiver 17 in fantasy points per game in Devontae Smith, and you still get these numbers. Yeah, A.J. Brown's ADP has fallen too far. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the game, and I'm gonna enjoy getting him a little later.
One of the best wide receivers in the game, one of the most well-read wide receivers in the game as well. Yeah, we appreciate AJ always doing the research as well. Again, I sort of talked about with Saquon Barkley. The Eagles were so incredibly run-heavy, right? Last year they were 23rd in pass attempts per. I'm sorry, last year they were last in the NFL in pass attempts per game. They were 32nd. They attempted 26 passes attempts per game, last in the NFL. So the previous 2 years, they were like 21st, 23rd. So again, this is what I'm saying. Like last year was such an outlier, and and Saquon was breaking up these crazy long runs. If they go back to being just a bottom third team in terms of pass attempts, as opposed to like last in the NFL in pass attempts, which I think is completely reasonable to say, like maybe they're somewhere in the the 20 to 22 range in terms of pass attempts per game. Yeah. A.J. Brown, because he's such an alpha, because he is so talented, he gets right back up there. I agree with you. I think he's a value this season for sure. 34% target share. A.J. Brown, I think you're like, really, we're a year removed from him being one of the elite guys in the NFL. So I do think people are just putting too much into last year's stats.
Yeah, guy who's got the talent, Matthew, to break into the elite as well as Garrett Wilson, even if we haven't quite seen him put it all together, though that may not be his fault entirely. What do you think the scope is for him to have a career best season with former OSU teammate Justin Fields?
Garrett Wilson, yeah, I mean, I think a decent amount, right? Like, so when you're looking at fantasy success, potential fantasy success, it's very simple. Talent and opportunity. No one's going to question Garrett Wilson's talent. Like, he was a highly drafted wide receiver, out of Ohio State. Everyone, like, this guy's a superstar. He's proven that every single year he's been in the NFL. And then you talk about, target competition, right? He's got, literally the other he's competing with Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, rookie Mason Taylor, the tight end. They got. It is the Garrett Wilson show. And then you think about last year, there were 6 games before Devontae Adams showed up. And I get it, different coordinator, Aaron Rodgers there, different quarterback, whole thing. But still, before the Devontae Adams trade, he had a 30% target share. The 6 games before Devontae Adams showed up, 30% target share. He was wide receiver 11. He was averaging over 16 fantasy points per game. Once Adams showed up, it went down to like a 23.5% target share. So I really think he's going to be like at a close to 30% target share, if not more. It will be run heavy, but when they throw, they're throwing to Garrett Wilson. And whatever you think of Justin Fields, DJ Moore had a decent season with him. Darnell Mooney had flashes with him. We saw last year George Pickens have some nice plays with Justin Fields as well. So I think Garrett Wilson, who produced with Zach Wilson, he produced with Aaron Rodgers last year.
Wilson on Wilson production.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Garrett Wilson. 2023, DJ Moore was the 9th best wide receiver in fantasy with Justin Fields as his quarterback. He can support a wide receiver 1.
And that's where I think Garrett Wilson can finish around this year in fantasy. And when you think about it, you mentioned Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson has been a guy so far in his career that's 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards. So when we talk about his career best season, yes, he could have that. He definitely could have it here with Justin Fields. We're talking about Garrett Wilson, a guy whose most yards he's had in the season is 1,104. I don't think that's going to be hard to beat, even in a run-oriented offense, when you're the main target by far. He saw 154 targets last year, but the year before that was 168. That's his career high. I expect that number to be closer to that 168 this season.
Yep. Lawrence, think maybe the biggest story in the NFL this year in terms of actually impacting the Super Bowl and its outcome is, can the Chiefs get back to being a super explosive offense that they were? Even post Tyreek Hill in 2022, they were explosive, but they haven't been the past 2 years, even though they made the Super Bowl each of those years despite that. And a big part of them getting back to being explosive will be their receivers stepping up. And the two most prominent ones, Xavier, Rashee Rice, who do you think ends up scoring those fantasy points?
I'm going to go with Rashee Rice, mainly because for Xavier Worthy, his role in that offense, the last time we saw it was in the Super Bowl. We saw him catching those garbage touchdowns, 60 yards down the field. But with Rashee Rice, we saw those first 3 games last year before he got hurt, and we was like, damn, that's Patrick Mahomes' new guy. Like he was playing there in the slot. He was wide receiver 2 in fantasy points per game those first 3 weeks. 8 receptions, 96 yards on almost 10 targets a game in those first 3 games. They were scheming to get Rashee Rice the ball. You saw it instantly week 1 when they played. He was killing the Ravens.
33% target share right there. He runs a lot of the same routes as Travis Kelce, which sort of opens up the middle of the field. I think it's close, to be perfectly honest with you.
You've got to be a lawyer to really know the answer to this one, right? Because if you told me that I'd rather have 13 games of Rashee Rice than 17 of Worthy, if it's 12, that's when it starts getting a bit dicier.
Well, right, and that's why I have Worthy ranked higher. Like, I have Worthy ranked higher as I have him wide receiver 19. I have Rice at wide receiver 22 because we feel better about getting more games out of Worthy this year than Rice because of the off-the-field issues. But if you're asking me on a points-per-game basis, which wide receiver would I rather have, I think obviously they're very close. But give me Rashee Rice. I agree with Lawrence. I just think he does more. I think he's got a more expanded route tree. I think he will. I think that he will, because of Kelce being there and it's the middle of the field and the different ways they use him, I think he will see more favorable coverage than Xavier Worthy, who's likely going to be out wide and, probably getting whoever the other team's best corner is. I will say this. Last year, the Chiefs did manufacture touches for Worthy, which I don't know if they're going to do for Rice. So, again, I think it's close, but yes, on a per-game basis, it can be Rice, but because of the suspension, I have Worthy ranked higher by a little bit.
Yeah, bit of a forgotten man, Matthew. Chris Olave, who has all the talent in the world, has always been dealing with these concussion issues, but he's healthy at the moment. He has quarterback uncertainty. Nick Underhill, who does great work covering the Saints, he's reported that Spencer Rattler is clearly outplaying Tyler Shuck in training camp. So uncertainty there.
What about Jake Haener? No Jake Haener?
Jake Haener gets the job.
He modeling. He the model, ain't he? That's him.
They might be.
It's big trouble. What do you think the scope is for Chris Olave to be a top 20 wide receiver?
I think it's certainly right there. I think it's a health question. I mean, because Olave's had inconsistent quarterback play recently for sure. But during his healthy games in his career, and obviously that's a big if, but this is a guy that had basically a 26% target share. He was wide receiver 23 in points per game over his first 2 years in the NFL. And so he is somebody that earns targets at a high rate. I don't think they're going to be particularly good this year. And I will say that Kellen Moore, their new head coach, comes there, and we've seen under Kellen Moore, especially when you think about his days in Dallas, him produce high production. Kellen Moore's not stupid. Kellen Moore's going to look around at the Saints and be like, "What do I got to work with here? I got questionable quarterback play." It's like, all right, I got Alvin Kamara and I got Chris Olave. Like, those are my 2 best chances of being somewhat competitive here. So I think both guys end up touching the ball a lot. I do think Kamara is kind of an interesting sleeper. Once again, we slept on them all last year. We're like, oh, they're going to be bad quarterback, and yet Kamara was a PPR merchant. And so whether it's Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck or, whoever, ultimately, I think they'll be good enough to get the ball to Olave. If he can stay healthy, again, think about the conversations people were having about Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors last year. Yes, they're super talented, but who's their quarterback? It's going to be a disaster. It doesn't matter. Those guys earn targets at a high level. Those guys both produced massive fantasy points last year.
If I had to choose which quarterback that I would want for the success of Chris Olave, it would easily be Spencer Rattler for me. Been in the building already. He didn't get he was a rookie himself, but he didn't play with Alvin Kamara. He didn't play with Chris Olave. He didn't play with starting offensive linemen. And if he outplaying Tyler Shuck easily, then that's the guy. Well, I got Chris Olave at wide receiver 32 right now, but I definitely think he could be a top 20 receiver again.
I think he's a really good sleeper, and Spencer Rattler has a little bit of that F it, Chris Olave's down there
throw it
somewhere.
deep.
Right, exactly.
Throw
He'll
it
chuck
deep.
it deep, and we love to see that.
Okay, well, we're going to hit our first break, but a reminder to everyone that if you want to join the conversation live, give us feedback on Matthew Berry grading his body on an aging curve. Tune in daily to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel at noon Eastern for our live stream of Happy Hour, and you can still catch us on Peacock at 5 Eastern. After the break, we'll have some Rotoworld Player news and take a look at some interesting depth charts.
Quick hitters, most impressive newcomer so far.
Matthew Golden. Man, I think he's shown up since day one and just really shown his play style. Showing what he's all about. I think he came in really polished and has been making plays since day one. He's got very aggressive hands. He's a smooth route runner. He's got speed. So I think for him, it's just continue to understand the playbook and wrap his head around everything that we have in, because we have a very deep system. But when you can see when he knows what he's doing, he's feeling confident. He's been playing lights out.
Okay, Rotoworld Player news. That was our friend Kevin Clark on This Is Football talking to Jordan Love. The Packers wide receiver room, Matthew, is an annual discussion. A lot of names, a lot of just human beings in this receiver room. Not even to mention the great Tucker Kraft.
Right.
Luke Musgrave's still around too, but the receivers.
Who knew Mecole Hardman was there, by the way? Who knew Mecole Hardman? Be honest at home. You guys didn't know. Yeah.
Dontavian Wicks has been a breakout candidate.
Sure.
Seemingly every year. Savion Williams might
Yeah.
get some
Tavian
run
Wicks
too.
good for real.
Yeah.
You just
Williams
can't
is-
tell right now because there's 82 receivers on the team.
That's true, but Savion Williams is kind of like a nice, trendy dynasty pick.
Who do you think is going to be the best receiver on the Packers?
I'm going to say Jaden Reed is going to be sort of my call. I think I know Matthew Golden is getting all sorts of love, and he's got the draft capital obviously, and Christian Watson is struggles to stay in that lineup, hurt again as well. But I just feel like Jaden Reed, because he's in the slot, I think in terms of just sort of overall value. I'm answering that question from a both where he's being drafted and production standpoint, because I think maybe Golden outproduces, but I think with Jaden Reed, because he's in the slot, they do manufacture touches for him a little bit as well. So it's close, but if you're asking me to pick one Packers wide receiver this year, give me Jaden Reed.
Give me Romeo Doubs.
Okay.
All right,
Romeo
interesting.
Doubs.
Yeah.
He's got that's proven good rapport with Jordan Love in the passing game. Jordan Love just said the best newcomer was Matthew Golden, right? About a month before that, he was asked to name his top 5 receivers in the league. He named 4 that was legit, you know what I'm saying? Then the 5th one was Romeo Doubs. Now, why did he pick him? Out of all 12 Green Bay receivers, he picked Romeo Doubs.
Remember, like,
I'll tell you why. Because he knows that, like, he needed to, like, boost his ego. Because the rest of the guys are actually good. So Romeo Doubs.
Look, Romeo Doubs. What did he do last year where he like cursed out the team? He came back and had 8 catches, almost 100 yards. They was like, he's so good that we don't care what he said to us. He's getting these targets. So I'm going to go Romeo Doubs for now.
Jordan Love is ranked top 6 in touchdown rate both seasons as a starter. Like, he's been productive. He can get the ball there. The challenge of the Packers really isn't the talent. It's so many mouths to feed on a team that does want to be balanced and likes to run the ball with Jacobs. And so that's why I sort of like Reed, because I feel like of all the guys, Reed has the most secure role. The other guys are going to go in and out on the outside and everything like that. And I know they've played some of those other guys in the slot, but really, Jaden Reed is their slot guy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he's got the most secure role as Golden is battling with Dobbs, and you've got Wicks in the mix, and you know, and you know, and Mecole. You know, like we're gonna send a few wind sprints.
That's
for
who it's
Mecole
really
Hardman.
gonna be.
Watch, right, exactly.
Positive regression for Jaden Reed coming out a lot of drops last
Yeah.
year. The Athletics' Dan Duggan believes it's unclear how long Cam Skattebo will be sidelined, dealing with a hamstring injury, Lawrence. So this is good news for Tyrone Tracy from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and let me be honest here about this Giants backfield, because I've been going to the practice, watching with my eyes. With now, Cam Skattebo, he's
Scout
hurt now.
Lawrence.
Little scout, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I think people should draft Wan'Dale Robinson with their last pick. But about this Giants backfield, Cam Skattebo, he's getting first-team reps, but not significant enough to, like, Tyrone Tracy is the dude, easily the dude. Cam Skattebo, he'll have some good runs here and there. He's had a good camp, but mostly he's been rotating in with the twos. He's probably going to be the backup when he comes back. It is healthy, and they'll work his way in, but not a situation where, like, we saw Bucky Irvin and Rashad White last year.
Yeah.
He'll get his run because he's a good running back. Skattebo hasn't got a good skill set, but Tyrone Tracy for now.
Tracy averaged over 13 fantasy points per game last year in the 12 starts that he had. Talented guy. Questions about the offensive line here with the Giants as well. And if Skattebo, you know, takes some of those touches away, it's not ideal, but Skattebo will drop a few spots when I do my next rankings update as well. I don't mind a flyer on Tyrone Tracy. Like, I love Tyrone Tracy as a player, so I was bummed when they took Skattebo just from a fantasy perspective. But I do think there's going to be a little bit of a committee, and so Tracy probably has the upper hand in that committee and might be more of the value, but, like, not going to be the best offense in the world.
Yep. Well, it's first week of August, so let's get to some Niners running back injury news. It is the time of year. Isaac Guerendo, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan, is going to miss a few weeks with a shoulder. So we'll see you in 2026, Isaac Guerendo.
Yeah, the last time we heard Kyle Shanahan say, like, oh, yeah, McCaffrey's going to be ready for the season. Oh, no, he'll be there after week 1. No, it was 4 weeks. And then ultimately, you know, missed all those games, you know, missed the first 8 games, I believe, everything like that. Jordan James, I think, is really interesting. Now, they've got Amir Abdullah there. They've got Patrick Taylor. You know, they got a couple of guys. But Jordan James is the rookie they drafted that, and Connor Rogers and all of us talked about this when he got drafted. He's the one that feels the most skill set-wise as to what Kyle Shanahan likes to run. And as you know, like, whether it's Guerendo or Jordan Mason or Elijah Mitchell or whatever, Shanahan just finds these running backs. So I do feel like as we sort of try to figure out the pecking order of who is behind CMC, kind of like Jordan James, and this injury to Guerendo doesn't help.
Okay, let's take a look at some depth charts that have been released. Now, these are unofficial depth charts, and I find
and they're often put together by interns.
Yeah, it's like put together by interns, and the head coach doesn't necessarily always have a say, and it seems like there is a default to putting rookies at the end of the depth chart. It's like just a thing that teams do each year. So we look at the Broncos unofficial running back depth chart. J.K. Dobbins coming over from the Chargers after his great comeback season. Jaleel McLaughlin, the immortal Audric Estime, Tyler Beatty, Blake Watson, and then R.J. Harvey, who in reality is going to be higher than that. Jags, wide receivers, not that many of them in Washington, but Brian Thomas Jr., he's the number 1. Travis Hunter, who it was very interesting, Liam Cohen saying on the Rich Eisen show that Travis Hunter, the expectation is he's going to end up playing up to 80% of the snaps on offense when they get him fully ramped up. Diami Brown and then Parker Washington, Matthew's secret crush. And then the Steelers' unofficial running back depth chart. Jaylen Warren listed as the starter with Najee Harris gone. Kenneth Gainwell coming across from Philadelphia. Caleb Johnson, who I still think has the most upside of anyone in this group. And then Trey Sermon, who feels like he's often fourth on depth chart.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprise with the Steelers, especially as Caleb Johnson gets up to speed on pass protection, that Jaylen Warren is going to be somebody that Arthur Smith trusts quite a bit. The Broncos backfield, okay, what I mean, that's a Sean Payton thing, but it's going to be Dobbins and Harvey. I am the more who is on YouTube asking, what do y'all think of this Harvey news being the Broncos' fifth string? Coach is playing tricks.
Yes.
I don't even think it's the coach playing tricks. I think it's just he's a
Intern
rookie.
playing tricks.
Yeah, intern playing tricks. He has Lawrence, he has too much draft capital for them to have him be fifth string.
Draft capital. How about talent, skill, and ability? If R.J. Harvey was drafted in 6th round, I would still be thinking his depth chart look crazy right now. But it's, we ain't hit the season yet, so.
Yep. Okay.
To me, the most interesting thing of all those depth charts was Travis Hunter being listed as a starting wide receiver and as a backup corner. And you combine that with the comments that Cohen made on Eisen's show, that you're sort of like, if you knew right now he was playing 80% of the snaps on offense, Travis Hunter should be going inside the top 20, maybe even the top 15.
Yep.
He is that good.
Agreed. Our last item here, Cleveland.com's Mary Kay Cabot reports that Shedeur Sanders will start the Browns' first preseason game against the Panthers. Football is back. Shedeur against the Panthers. And Shedeur Sanders, he drinks free, Matthew.
You know what? Yeah, and I'll turn this over to Lawrence because I will say this. This poor kid, Shedeur Sanders, just took so much grief throughout the draft process. And look, I think some of it he brought on himself. Lawrence, you have to admit that, him and the family in terms of how they handle it. But he got way more crap than he deserved. And so I think it's good, good for the kid.
All he did was play football and be handsome. I don't know what Shedeur did, man. But
at least some of the attitude and the dad saying he doesn't want to be drafted by certain teams, and
I didn't know that was true.
Yeah,
I didn't. But,
we did a TV interview. Dion,
the Browns will finally get to see that he's their best quarterback, so they should be able to drink free too.
Okay, we're gonna hit our last break. Last call is next. Our picks for regular season rushing yards leader. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and all customers can bet the NFL on DraftKings now. Just download the app and use promo code FFHH when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crown is yours.
Okay, regular season. Rushing yards leader, favorite. Saquon Barkley, plus 275, who was the champion last year. Derrick Henry, second favorite, 4-1. My pick here, gentlemen, is Ashton Jeanty. You have Matthew as RB5. I think there is perhaps a little bit of a premium that you can get here because he's a rookie. And I don't think he's less likely than Jahmyr Gibbs in a timeshare to win the rushing yards title. So Ashton Jeanty for me at plus 1,800. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. Last 5 games of last season, 28 rushes, 144 yards per game, 1.2 touchdowns. Put that in the average. And over 5 yards a carry. That's with both quarterbacks. So I like Jonathan Taylor this year.
JT, 10-1, he did it in 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say you could absolutely see it. How about Amari and Hampton?
Oh, sure.
At plus 4,500. Right. No, I'm joking. Look, a real pick, though, would be Josh Jacobs, who has also previously done this. Jay, you've won some real money on Josh Jacobs winning.
He did it at 2022?
Yes.
The year after JT.
Yes, exactly.
On the Raiders.
Friend of the podcast, Josh Jacobs as well. My only concern on Jeanty, I really like the pick, is do they use him more in the passing game so they can't? Because the question here is rushing yards. Okay, so tomorrow is Friday. We're off tomorrow, but then Monday, we are starting our full season. We are here Monday through Friday, live at noon on YouTube every single day. For Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, wherever Connor Rogers is, I'm Matthew Berry. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Go Shedeur. Peace out.